College London has uncovered that how you cook your food holds greater sway over your waistline than ticking the nutritional boxes. It's been revealed that when you roll up your sleeves and make yourself an honest meal from scratch, it's possible to shed the pounds at twice the rate you would with a diet of processed food and snacks. A triumph for the saucepan over the sachet, if ever there were one. Anyway, I'm now joined by the founder of Bags of Taste, Alicia Weston. Alicia, first of all, tell me, what does Bags of Taste try to do? What's its aim?
We work with some of the people that have the biggest barriers to eating well, essentially, in society. So often people that have perhaps mental health problems, other kind of serious health problems, and some of them can't even leave their homes, really, to help them improve their diets.
And you help them improve their diet by teaching them to cook from the ground up, really, so with the ingredients, so they can then feed their families with their own cooking.
Well, that's a bit of a misconception, because actually 80% of the people we work with actually know how to cook and rate their cooking skills when they join us as average to good. So there is a misconception that people in poverty, I mean, there's no question that they do have, in general, poor diets, but the belief is that, people can't cook, so therefore they don't need home cooking. And in fact, the real barriers are much wider than that. Only about 20% of the people we work with really don't know how to cook, and it's about the same, rich or poor.
So, well, I'm one of those 20%. But
Yes.
So what are the barriers? What are the barriers you're trying to break down?
Well, a lot of it is about confidence, to be honest, because when you're hard up, you really have a lot of sort of bashes to your confidence. But there are lots of different things. For example, what you will eat, what your kids will eat, what your food preferences are. How many takeaways you walk past on your way home is a pretty good indicator of whether or not you're going to get home with a takeaway. But there's a lot of cost-related stuff, of course. So there's things like, do you live in a food desert? Can you actually get access to fresh food? Because if you're just surrounded by ultra-processed food, funnily enough, that's what you're going to eat. Do you have the right equipment? Does your oven work? Are you using it for storage? These are all things that predict whether or not you're actually likely to cook for yourself. And so it's really about breaking down these what we call social determinants of health. And
once people do cook for themselves, this new study seems to indicate that they will be better off, and if they wish to lose weight, they'll be better off losing weight on their own cooking rather than on the fast food that they've walked past on the way home.
So there's been this massive debate over the last probably 4 or 5 years about ultra-processed food, which is essentially food that it contains lots of ingredients that you wouldn't find in your own kitchen. So factory-made food that's been kind of mass-produced, but not things like tin tomatoes, but things that have a lot of different ingredients, and how bad it is for you. And the research that's been coming out, as is this, shows that it's not very good for you, and it impacts things like your mental health, obviously your physical health. So all of these things are just, the evidence is getting stronger. And this study actually does show that the ultra-processed food is not as good for you as home cooking.
But does this mean that people can eat unlimited quantities of their home-cooked food, or should they still be reasonably sensible about what they eat at home?
Well, portion control is quite an important thing. And in fact, I mean, that's one of the things that we work on, is helping people to understand, for instance, how much pasta you should cook, because often people just sling in, they just guess with the pasta. They're not really sure. They end up with too much, and they think, well, rather than go to waste, I'll just eat it. So, if you have 1.5 portions, you're like, well, I don't know what to do with a half portion, I'll just eat it.
So what you're trying to do is give people confidence to do what is in their own best interests.
Absolutely.
And that this study confirms that for people who are looking to lose weight, but it's got much more benefit than that.
In terms of cooking?
In terms of people's general health.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly the evidence around ultra-processed food shows that it gives you a 50% increased chance of depression, for example. So there are, and in fact, there's some, not this particular study, but another study that came out quite recently shows that your risk of death from all-cause mortality is directly related to the amount of ultra-processed food that you consume on a one-to-one basis.
All right. Well, we've got some ultra-processed food in front of us, which is a Greggs sausage roll, which people may be able to see the camera, and some Kentucky Fried Chicken gravy to pour on it.
I heard this is their new product.
This is apparently a new deal. Now,
Jacob is not going to eat this.
I'm not actually, no, I'm afraid. If it were a Greggs chocolate eclair, I would eat it instantly. I kept going during the general election campaign on Greggs chocolate eclairs, but I'm afraid I prefer homemade sausage rolls to bought ones, and I'm afraid I also prefer homemade gravy. I've never been a fan of Kentucky Fried Chicken. I've got to dip the sausage. I'm getting instructions in my ear to dip the sausage. I was told I didn't have to eat this by my producers, and here it is, and I'm afraid I'm not going to.
I said I would eat it.
You're going to eat it?
I will eat it.
Has to be said, I know that Alicia is a brilliant cook, so that she is eating this thing is, I think, a service to the GB News watching
I did try
public.
the vegan sausage roll just to see what it was like after all the hype. So.
And what's your expert opinion once you've taken a... Am I being a bit wet in not digging in?
It tastes like a sausage roll.
Tastes like a sausage roll. Well, there you are. What more could you possibly want? Perhaps I will take a bite after all when the programme's safely ended and you don't see me dropping gravy all down my shirt front. Anyway, that is all from me. Thank you very much to Alicia from Bags of Taste. Up next, it's the one and only Patrick Christys. Patrick, what is on your menu this evening?
I can't help but feel as though, Jacob, if we'd told you that was a miniature beef Wellington, you'd have eaten that in seconds.